What is up? Welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be discussing a series that I will have to say is definitely uniquely Filipino and definitely something to be proud of as a Filipino. And it's one of our first attempts of creating an original Filipino themed anime. And of course, a lot of Filipino artists have been working on a lot of different animes over the years, but this is a story that is uniquely based off of Filipino mythology and a lot of that creepy stuff that is uniquely Filipino. So, of course, it's none other than Trese on Netflix. Just a bit of a background, if you don't know, Trese is based off of a comic book, and if you haven't heard of it up until now, you're not really to blame because, you know, indie Filipino comics aren't really a big market, but this particular comic book has been just exploding in the indie scene, and it's probably one of the most popular Filipino comics out there, because even when I was working in Dubai, I would see Trese comic collections in the bookstores and where they sell comics, and that was just a really proud moment for me. But although I haven't read the comics itself, I've known about it for a while, and I really do respect the comic and the fans of the comic, because even in a lot of the Filipino comic book conventions, you would see them cosplaying the twins with the mask, and yeah, they're pretty cool characters. So the synopsis of this story, we follow the main character, of course, Alexandra Trese. We'll just go with Alexandra Trese because, you know, Filipino accent and all that. But she is essentially a supernatural detective, or a babaylan. If you're familiar with Filipino history and culture, the babaylans are essentially shamans who are in charge of appeasing the spirits of the supernatural world. And yeah, it sounds really cool when you think about it, but yeah, she's essentially descended from a long lineage of babaylans, and in this story, she is actually kind of the mediary, the guardian of Earth realm, and actually she tries to maintain the balance between the supernatural world and the human world. So following that, she actually works with the PNP, which is kind of cool but kind of weird, because, you know, you won't essentially think of them really respecting like the supernatural stuff. You know, well, I've seen a lot of these types of series where there's a lot of supernatural detective stuff going on, and usually the police aren't 100% in on it. It's either a secret between one or a few members. But yeah, I guess it kind of works like that. It kind of works like that here as well. So yeah, so every time crimes turn out to have like supernatural aspects, Alexandra is called in to investigate and see if there's like imbalance to the force, if you will. So the kingpins, or the crime lords of Manila, apparently are clans of supernatural entities. We have Nuno, which is like an earth spirit, like a gnome or a dwarf. But there's also the duende, who is also kind of like a dwarf. We have tikbalangs, and diwata and wind spirits. This is actually the first time I've heard of wind spirits in Filipino mythology, so that's very interesting to see and to learn about. And there are, of course, the Chokoys. I haven't seen the Serenas yet, the Serenas, because they are mentioned by having because Serena bones were used in the very first episode to like capture a spirit. The ghost of the White Lady of the Balete Drive. If you're familiar with that, she actually opens up the entire series because she is found captured and killed. If you can believe that someone killed a ghost. But yeah, so a lot of interesting stuff, and definitely as we move on to other seasons, hopefully we get other seasons because this series is just really good. We get to see a lot more mythological creatures from Filipino myth, because we do have such a rich mythology. And one question I do have about this is the main villain is called Datu Talagbusao. So the main villain is called Datu Talagbusao, and he is essentially a war god. So it's kind of confusing because in Filipino mythology, we do actually have a war god, and he's not named Datu Talagbusao. He's called Apulaki. And yeah, so it's just weird that they didn't use the actual war god of the Philippines. But yeah, the main villain is called Datu Talagbusao, which is kind of a weird name. Let's talk about a little bit about Datu Talagbusao, the main villain of the series. So he is essentially a war god who gets reincarnated every few generations, I think, because his recent reincarnation involved no ritual, or at least it wasn't shown that there was a ritual to revive him. Because the first one, they did show him getting reincarnated with a blood ritual, but this time we're not really sure, so he just probably reincarnates no matter what. So yeah, and his goal is essentially to destroy the entire world and rebuild it once again. It's like an endless cycle. And of course, the Treses, or the Treses essentially are just want to stop him, of course. They don't want the world to end. And actually, why Datu Talagbusao wants to end the world and all of existence is probably just because he can, which is, for me, is a pretty shallow motivation for the villain. Yeah, he definitely falls under the generic big bad guy in anime, and which is fine sometimes. Of course, this is the first season. Hopefully, though, we get better villains as the story progresses even more, because how everything ended and wrapped up kind of makes you assume that there is a bigger picture at play, and a lot of shadowy figures pulling the strings from the background. So yeah, we're definitely interested in that, and hopefully we do get meaningful villains out of this series. So before we go any further, let's discuss probably one of the biggest issues surrounding this series, which is the Liza Soberano dubbing the Tagalog version. And okay, let's just get this out of the way. I am a fan, actually. I'm a fan of Liza Soberano and her live action films. But for the case of Trese, you definitely see a lot of her inexperience, and it goes to show in her voice acting. It's kind of monotonous and flat, and you kind of hear hints of her, you know it's her. And it's weird. And actually I wouldn't blame Liza for the performance she gave, because the script is without a doubt written in English, and there are a lot of lines and expressions that don't really translate well to Tagalog. And the way they did it is they just directly translated English into Tagalog, and yeah, there are some expressions that we don't use, and which is weird when you say it in Tagalog. And yeah, so the Tagalog version is definitely needs a lot of work. So for me, I would definitely recommend you watch it in the English version, because that's how it was written and that's how it was made to be shown to the public anyways. And actually, it does sound very Filipino. Like a lot of the characters, even when they're speaking English, they have this very thick Filipino accent, which you will say it's definitely Filipino still, even if they're using English. So yeah, I know a lot of you are like, Pinoy Pride, we should watch this in Tagalog, but no, actually, sadly, it's not intended to be watched in Tagalog. They definitely made it with an English script, and of course the English voice actress did a phenomenal job with the dubbing, and yeah, she just was able to carry more of the expression of Alexandra in English because of course the script and the emotion behind this, the intent of the script and the emotion behind it. Aside from, as compared to Liza Soberano, who just seems to be reading the script, it's kind of uninspired, and I get that because again, the script is directly translated to Tagalog, and sometimes that doesn't work. Especially for the one-liners when she's like about to kill a villain or about to fight a bunch of bad guys, she would say a one-liner, and it just doesn't work because Filipinos don't say that. They should have made a different script that is like based on Filipino slang and how Filipinos actually talk, because yeah, the English script definitely doesn't translate well. So that aside, let's move on to the animation and the style of this series. It's very dark, it's very gory. Although I would have to say Castlevania is a bit more gory, but it kind of has the same vibe. And yeah, definitely the animation for the series is done with the highest caliber. Of course, Filipino artists are just amazing. Of course, we've been working on big anime since, like, as far as I know, they've worked on Dragon Ball, they've worked on a lot of other classic anime, Sailor Moon, and yeah, it's just such a big thing that we are finally getting some sort of representation in the anime scene done by Filipinos, written by Filipinos. And yeah, even if the script is English, it still definitely has a Filipino heart. I will just, one other thing that I loved about this series is the opening sequence. That's just one of the best opening sequences I've seen in any anime. It's better than most of the popular anime. Like, I don't remember Naruto or One Piece or Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan having such an awesome opening sequence, because it just definitely sets the tone for the series. It's bloody, it's gory, it's dark and mysterious all at the same time. The music is amazing, and just the overlay, the animation, everything. It's just the opening sequence will just blow you away. So let's talk a bit about the story of the series, and definitely it's beautifully done. There are a lot of mysteries. Each episode is like a short mystery that our heroes have to solve, and it wraps up beautifully at the end. It's all connected, and that's amazing. As for character development, I don't really think Alexandra developed at all as a character throughout the series. There is kid Alexandra, and then there's just adult Alexandra, and she just stays like a monotonous character until the end. Although she's a badass and we love her for being a badass, I think she's very OP, and I would love to see her lose her magic blade. Maybe for just a part of like the second season, she loses the blade or something. A bad guy takes it away, and she has to resort to other traditional means of killing the aswangs and the villains, because that would be a lot more interesting for me, that she has to come up with ways or remember old ways of dealing with these creatures. And I think that would be cool. Although yeah, she's definitely super overpowered in this season. I don't really find her having trouble with any of the entities, especially with the huge ex machina, of the fire god spirit that she just calls and, you know, just kills everything and problem solved. So I would love to see a lot more desperation in her part. But overall, I think the story is good. It can only get better, hopefully. And again, hopefully we get to see her develop as a character even more, because yeah, she is a bit flat. And actually, I think I would love to see what happened inside the Budjette tree, because there is like a trial of the Budjette tree, and she was gone for 5 years, and that's where she transitioned into this great babaylan or warrior. And yeah, I would just love to see what happened in that 5-year time difference. And yeah, maybe there we can see how or why she turned out the way she did. And although we do have glimpses of it, but you know, I don't think it actually changes her as a character, because she's still the same, still badass. And yeah, I mean, there's not absolutely nothing wrong with that, but having a bit of character development will definitely, I think, improve and the story even more. So the pacing and the animation is really awesome. I found myself at awe with some sequences of this series. Definitely a lot of thought went into the action, but it can be hit or miss. There are some weird poses, and yeah, there are some weird action scenes, but overall there are more good than bad. And actually, the set pieces are beautifully made, the backgrounds, and you will definitely notice the backgrounds because they're amazing. There are a lot of nostalgia factors. You will be familiar, if you're Filipino, definitely you will be familiar with some of the backgrounds. And again, they're just beautifully painted, and yeah, there's a lot of care went into the background, the animation, and it's just super awesome. Well, the pacing of this series will just keep you excited all the way to the end. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool mythology stuff. I really do hope they explore different ways in killing these creatures, because you only see her OP dagger that you can just kill anything. And yeah, I really want to see her on the back foot against like an unstoppable foe, and just develop her character from there. Overall, one other thing that I would like to see in the next season is just a really relatable villain, because we all love to see a relatable villain. And yeah, again, a lot more desperation on our main character's side, because having two demigod guards, bodyguards, she's just super OP at the moment, and she just needs to be taken down a peg. And yeah, I would love to see her character develop further from that. Overall, we're giving Trese a good 8 out of 10. Definitely a must watch. Not just because you're Filipino, because it is a good anime. Because I've watched a lot of Netflix originals and original anime. I would say it is almost at par as Castlevania, which is way up here. We have Trese and we have Blood of Zeus. So it's better, I think, at least for me, I think it's better than Blood of Zeus. Because a lot of the times I was falling asleep with the story of the Blood of Zeus, although it is still a good anime. And of course, being just at the same caliber as those anime, it's no laughing matter. It's definitely something to be proud of. And we just we want to show our support to the Filipino artists, the Filipino community of artists which just did a great job of this series. I mean, they really pulled all the stops. The music, the acting, the voice acting of the English part, the script was awesome. I mean, the strong Filipino accent of the characters, even when they're speaking English, was just such a nice touch, and it's actually respectful to the Filipino community. And I would say it's even more respectful than the Tagalog version, which is just so awful. I mean, the script is so awful because it just doesn't translate well to Filipino. And I was experimenting of watching the scene in Tagalog and watching the scene in English, and definitely the English just made more sense. So that's it for today's video, guys. Have you seen Trese? What do you think? Did you like the Tagalog version better than the English version or the Japanese version? Honestly, I haven't seen it in Japanese yet, but for me, the English version is definitely the definitive version of this series because the script is written in English and you can actually see the mouthing of the characters. The mouthing of the characters are in the English language, so it just makes everything makes more sense. So what do you guys think? Please leave it down in the comments below. I know if you're a Liza fan, you probably say that she's actually better, but yeah, I guess I digress. Definitely up to your preference. If you love Liza, then maybe you would like her monotonous style. I mean, it kind of fits the character. She's kind of like worn out, uncaring, no emotion, and if that's how you see Alexandra, then I guess you would like how Liza performed it. But yeah, definitely for me the English one is better. And that's it for today's video, guys. If you like it, please do hit that thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please do consider hitting that subscribe and notification bell so you'll be notified of our next videos. And once again, it's me, your beautiful QuickSilver 15, signing off. See you on our next video. Peace.